What up, YouTube? It's Missouri Company. In today's video, I want to showcase the absolute best single target Blood Knight build, and you won't believe, after all of the new essences and how they made such a good farming build in Diablo Immortal for the Blood Knight, you don't use a single one of the new essences in this build. That's right, this build is actually better, even though I tested it with all of the new essences, minus the offhand, which isn't going to be good for single target damage anyway, but all of the new essences are actually worse than anything I use in this build. Pretty surprising, right? At least I was. Let's get straight to it, guys. So first things first, I will cover the build real quick. So the headpiece, we're using Maw of the Pursuer, which is going to be Mythic Cloud now releases a blood red mist to choke enemies to death, continually dealing damage to enemies within the area while also increasing your damage done while you remain inside. Now, key note, you have to remain inside. And I really thought that the new headpiece was going to replace this, but I couldn't believe that it didn't. The new headpiece, in case you're curious what I'm referring to, is Blood Feast, which is Mythic Cloud now damages nearby enemies and drains their life. Mythic Cloud damage increase. I thought that one would be better, but it just wasn't. And I couldn't believe it. So moving on to the rest of the build here. So we also have Teeming Grotto, which is just a phenomenal build here for the bats. So Swarm of Bats also destroys enemy armor, increasing the damage they take by 19% for 3 seconds. Okay, now because the bats will just keep attacking with the shoulders that we're using, which is Torture and Torment, which is Swarm of Bats now causes a small swarm of bats to circle you. When you use a primary attack, a bat swoops down and bites the enemies. Swarm of Bat damage increased by 18%. This is considered a buff, which means every time a bat hits it, it will redo the armor, which is pretty fantastic. Bloody Waltz is the pants that we're using, which is Swarm of Bats increases in damage by 15.2% up to 60.8% for each negative status effect that the target has. Very good. And then the rest of it is just me buffing our primary attack damage. So Cruel Vendetta is just a flat 38% Shadow's Edge damage increased. Then we're using Mercy's Blight, which is a Shadow's Edge now marks enemy, causing them to erupt for 31,000 additional damage when reaching 4 marks. Damage increased by 90%. Then we're using Mooncall, which is our offhand, which Shadow's Edge also increases your primary attack speed by 10% for 2 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Shadow's Edge damage increased by 9%. The last essence, you can put whatever you want, because unfortunately we don't actually have an essence that works with this build. And I've even tested it with like the Red Concord, which adds an additional continual effect, which is your Whirling Strike now combusts, causing enemies to burn. But believe it or not, the skill that I'm utilizing that has, oops, I don't need the shop. I don't need the shop at all. But if we go to the skills, by using Transfusion, because it's a buff, and by utilizing it at the right time in your rotation, you actually do better with this because of the Secure we're using than you would with an actual ability doing damage. Isn't that crazy? I couldn't believe it. Like, we literally, just because we are maintaining our speed buff from Vithus, spoiler alert, Vithus is one of the ones I'm using, you actually do more damage. So it's actually kind of crazy. I was very impressed with this. So then for the Secure, we're using a 4-piece Vithus. So we increase the duration of all of our beneficial effects on party members by 30%, and then increase the target's attack speed by 30% for 3 seconds each time you use a skill that grants you a beneficial effect to yourself or a party member. And then we're also utilizing 4-piece Shalbass. So 4-piece Vithus, 4-piece Shalbass. In case you don't know what Shalbass does, primary attack damage increased by 15%. Your primary attacks gradually increase primary attack speed up to a maximum of 25%. So we're getting a ton of attack bonus here. And then the Paragon Tree, I'm using Weaver, because again, it's just the best for melee when it comes to PvE content. So with that combination, guys, and if you want to see the skills, we're using Mythic Cloud, which is a buff. We're using Shroud of Night, also a buff. We Swarm of Bats, buff. And then, of course, Transfusion, a buff. So all of these skills will activate the 4-piece for Vithus, but you want to offset them, which is why we use Transfusion compared to a different skill. Now let's go ahead and show you the build in action. Now again, I mentioned this on all my build videos because I do want to help you guys do more damage. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing these build videos. But make sure when it comes to your stances that you are toggling from the non-attack one to the attack one immediately when you start your rotation. So i.e. when you start a gauntlet fight or you start a raid fight. And I should have mentioned this in the head of the video. This build is only good for raids and gauntlets. It's not good for dungeons. It's not good for Elder Rifts or Challenge Rifts. It's focused on single target. You will do significantly more damage with a different build in those game modes. So single target, this is your build. Now let's go ahead and go to it. Now keep in mind, some of the different effects you could do is if you went for different family bonuses than what I have, you could actually probably do it a little bit better. So if you increased your attack speed and more attack damage, so if I got rid of skill damage and replace it with attack speed. That would be beneficial. You could also get a better duration. You could remove beneficial effect duration, but I really like that, especially when I jump to all the different classes. So that's why I'm using what I am. Now, your secondary gear is honestly probably better than mine. My secondary gear attributes are not good. I need to work on them. Trying to do it, can't catch up. It's an L. So I've seen people with like 4K armor pin. That is going to be what would help you do even more damage than what I'm doing in this video. But again, pretty low secondary stats for me. So if you're doing more damage with this build, I understand why it's the secondary attributes in most cases. But yeah, so there's my damage, 25k. Again, you might have higher damage than me. So that's where I'm at. My resonance is 3,490. And you can see all the legendary gems that I'm utilizing right here. They don't super impact it. You could min-max it even more if you went with some beneficial effect duration ones, or like pain clasp, stuff like that for just 2-star gems, or even Fervent Fang would be good, because again, this is all around PvE. So you could do and make a 2-star build that focuses to make this damage higher. I've seen people do some crazy numbers in a 1-minute time span. I saw one guy did it like 256 million damage with a very similar build, with literally just different gems, and he did it within a minute. So I'm only gonna do it for about 20 seconds to show you the build and show you how much damage it does. And ready, set, and go. So you notice I did not use my transfusion right away. I also didn't toggle my thing fast enough, so we are going to do that right now. Basically every few seconds you want to make sure that you have a buff up. It does better with offsetting itself. Once you get going, you can see that it fell off right now, and I'm about to get a new buff up. Okay, so we get that speed duration loss, and then we get it back, and then we just keep using our buffs. I'll go ahead and go to 30 seconds here. See how much damage we get. A few more seconds. And done. So 53 mil damage. So that would equal just above 1 mil if we did it for a whole minute. So not bad. Again, pretty good, really, for me, especially. Again, with the secondary attributes that I have, this build is so good, guys. It's very, very good. Now, you might ask, why do I care about single target damage when it comes to raids and gauntlets? Well, it's because when you do your warband raids, or your raids in general, the top 3 people get a bonus chest. It's called a chest of glory, and in it is, I think it's like 8 of these beguiling dust, which is going to be the main threshold, or the main item you need in terms of upgrading your gear levels. It's going to be the main setback. Like, you're going to be using more rescrap materials to transfer to your beguiling dust, and so why not min-max in a raid that you should be doing twice a week to get an additional amount. Now, if you have huge whales and you're not a whale in your warband, of course, they're going to be doing that more damage than you. But like in my warband, we're all kind of around the same place. Having a better build really does help me do more damage and have a better shot of getting the additional beguiling dust. And I do buy these every week from the vendor, the Hiltz vendor. I do anything and everything I can to make sure I get as much of this as possible, including my side quests every day. So if you're min-maxing it like I am, trying to get the most out of my gear and upgrade them as fast as possible, I would highly recommend utilizing these single target builds. So that's sort of why I did it. Never really explained that before. But again, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. This is the best single target build for the Blood Knight. Until next time, I hope to see you in a video very soon.